Hello, Fred from careerfair.com here. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to our newest application, Windstorm. Windstorm stands for Windows Supervising, Tweaking, Optimizing, Repair and Maintenance. This tool was created to provide computer technicians with all the software tools they need in their tasks while working on their workshops or on-site repairs, but also when managing computers remotely. So to start using this tool, just go to careerfair.com/windstorm and download the installer or the portable zip archive if you prefer. If you download the zip archive, just extract it to a folder in the location you want. Usually you would extract it to a portable storage device such as a USB stick. Otherwise, if you download the installer, which is what we're going to do for this video, just execute it straight from the browser or from your downloads folder. This last option here, extract as a portable app, lets you extract the application files to a folder, but in a more user-friendly way than if you would use the portable zip archive. These three options are basically the same. They all install to the program files folder and launch Windstorm, except the top two ones will also jump to the indicated feature. Set up remote or local monitoring, and an uninstall entry is always created, as well as the start menu entry. Let's see this in action. I'm just going to simply install two program files for this video. And there you go. As you can see, there is a show tips checkbox here at the top that you can tick, and a tooltip will be displayed every time you switch to a different page or when you select an utility from the utilities page. This might help you to get started with the application. For this video, we'll just uncheck it. Once the application is installed, we can execute it by double-clicking the Windstorm desktop icon. Windstorm's dashboard page is then displayed. This page is the starting point of this application. The upper part of the page displays some hardware and software information intended to help you quickly diagnose issues. In the center part, you have a drop-down box with fixes to those eventual issues. Just select an item in that drop-down box to immediately execute the selected fix. To reload the information fields, press Rescan System. In the mid-lower part of the page, you have a section where you can pin your most used utilities. To pin utilities here, go to the Utilities page, right-click the desired utility, and select Pin to Dashboard. As you can see, the utilities tile is automatically added to the first slots starting from the left. You can pin up to 7 utilities to the dashboard. To unpin an utility, right-click the desired tile and select Unpin from Dashboard. The tiles disappear, leaving a free slot for a different utility. Below the pinned utilities, you have two switches that let you easily turn the system immunization and execute prevent functions on or off. Toggle the desired switches. The first time you use this function, if it has not been configured yet, the corresponding utility is launched, in this case the system immunization. Set up the desired feature, and the next time you use those switches, they will just turn on or off the selected feature. Finally, at the bottom, a text label tells the date and time of the last thread scan, and the button to the right lets you start the same scan. Let's now switch to the Diagnose and Repair page. This page lets you perform a system scan and fix the results listed issues. You can scan the current online Windows OS or an offline OS located on an external or internal drive. This page also allows you to load a previous scan, restore quarantined items, manage whitelists, and more. WinStorm is all about diagnosis, so the same system scan is also performed by our RMM system regularly, which helps computer technicians and IT professionals manage and monitor their remote computers. To perform a system diagnosis, start by selecting the areas you want to scan in the left list under the What to Analyze group. You can click the Check All None checkbox to apply the corresponding state to all the items in the list. Click Reset Defaults to restore all the controls to their default state. Then indicate whether you want to load a whitelist file, a blacklist file, a system repair settings file, and a tweaks file under the Scan Files to Load group. Note that you can set these files up before starting the scan. To do so, click Advanced Options. This feature lets you set up the configuration files that will be loaded by the scan. These files can be easily imported from UVK to WinStorm or from other WinStorm modules such as the System Repair, AutoStart Entries, Services, Smart Installer, and Tools and Tweaks module. Indicate the desired files to load by selecting them on the drop-down box. These are the files that will be loaded. If they do not exist, they will be created. To import data from other files to the selected files, press the corresponding Add button to the right of the drop-down box. By default, the data will be merged with any data already existing in the destination file. If you prefer the data to be replaced instead, click the Replace checkbox at the bottom. Once you're done, click Apply and Save, or if you want to discard the changes, just close this dialog box. The next step is to select your preferred filtering option. This option is only valid for AutoStart Entries, Services, and installed desktop apps. It will not have any effect on the results from other lists. Show only infected and blacklisted items. Select this option if you're only searching for malware and your own blacklisted items. Show only blacklisted items and non-Windows items. This is the default option. Genuine Windows services, AutoStart entries, and desktop applications are hidden. Show all items. If you select this option, no filtering is done except for your whitelisted items. Note that regardless of which option you select, whitelisted items are always hidden and blacklisted items are always displayed and checked. The next thing to do is to select the Windows OS to scan. If you want to scan the current online Windows OS, select the option The Running Windows Installation. Otherwise, click Offline Select and then select in the drop-down box to the right the desired Windows OS drive to scan. Tick Scan All Users if you wish to scan all the users in the current Windows installation. This option is not valid for offline system scans, where all users are always scanned. Finally, press Start Diagnosis to begin the system scan. The Scan and Repair window is then displayed, showing the scan's progress and results. The system scan is one of the most important WinStorm modules and lets you deeply scan the current Windows OS or an external or remote one. The results are displayed in several lists. Selected items can be fixed one by one or by list or all at once. The scan's progress is displayed at the top right section of the title bar. While your computer is being scanned, you can start selecting items to fix. Switch to the desired list by clicking the Previous List, Next List buttons, or by selecting the desired list from the drop-down box between these buttons. The number of lists displayed depends on the options selected before starting the scan. If all the areas were selected to be scanned, these lists are shown. Once a list is fully scanned, you can start fixing items, even if the whole scan is not complete yet. For example, once the application has finished scanning for installed applications, the installed applications list becomes available for fixing. Fixing items is a global term that means executing the default action for each list, depending on the current settings. For example, for the services list, the action would be delete service. For the installed application list, it would be uninstall a selected application. For the system repair and maintenance list, it could be run selected fix, and so on. You can right-click any item to bring up the list's context menu. Each list has a different context menu with options like Google selected item or open file location, besides the delete item or disable item common options. Select the desired option, but keep in mind that it will target only the highlighted item on the list, not the checked ones. When you're working on a remote PC using WinStorm's RMM, items will be fixed on the remote computer you're connected to. And similarly, if you're working on an offline system, for example located in an external drive, items will be fixed in the offline system. The current online system is not affected in these case scenarios. The services list context menu also has service management options that let you send commands to the highlighted service, such as stop service, pause service, or set startup type. The Fix Checked This List button also becomes active when the current list is fully scanned. You can click this button to start fixing the detected items in the current list. And finally, when the scan completes, the progress controls in the title bar disappear and the Fix Checked All Lists button also becomes enabled. Click it to fix all the checked items in all the lists, but be sure to have a look at all the first and ensure they should be fixed. Let's now have a look at Easy Diagnosis. This feature was created to help you select fixes in the System Repair Issues and Available Fixes list by providing you with a list of symptoms that you need to select instead. When you press the Easy Diagnosis button, the dialog box similar to this one is displayed. Take the items that correspond to the issues you're having. The list also contains some generic items such as other software issues or other Windows issues that you can select if none of the other items applies to you. When you're done, press Check Only or Check and Run, and the fixes that are likely to repair the issues you select here will be automatically checked in the list. If you press Check and Run, the repair operation is also started automatically. Note that items previously checked in the list are not reset. If you don't want to check any items in the list, just press Cancel or close this dialog box. When you click the Settings button, a dialog box similar to this one is displayed. This dialog box contains 5 tabs: General, Email Reporting, FTP Reporting, Repair Shopper Reporting, and HTML Report Settings. It would be wise to set up the report ID before setting up the other options. Let's start with the General tab. The General tab lets you set the behavior when fixing the checked items for some lists, when uninstalling the checked desktop icons. If Regular Uninstall is selected, the application's regular uninstaller is executed and no automation is performed. This usually requires user interaction to uninstall applications. Do not use this option for RMM unless you have a person in front of the remote machine who can perform the actions needed to complete uninstalling the applications. Otherwise, if Forced Uninstall is selected, the checked applications are forcefully uninstalled. While this option doesn't need any user interaction, the selected applications may not be fully uninstalled. And finally, if Try Unattended Uninstall is selected, WinStorm will try to execute the quiet uninstall string value of the uninstall entry and also automate the application's uninstall process to some mouse clicks, and keystroke simulation. Some user interaction may still be needed to complete the uninstall process. Let's now see when fixing the checked Windows Store apps. If uninstall the checked apps is selected, the checked Windows Store apps are uninstalled. Otherwise, if reset the checked apps is selected, the checked Windows Store apps are reset instead. Email reporting. This tab lets you send reports by email automatically after each repair operation. So tick this option to enable this schedule option. Fill in the subject and the recipient fields and press Save Only. If you want to send a previously created report, press Send Now and indicate the location of the HTML file to send in this dialog box. Let's now switch to the FTP reporting tab. Tick Send reports to your FTP server automatically after each repair operation to enable this schedule feature. Then select the connection type and whether to use passive FTP. Fill in the server name, remote location, FTP username and FTP password fields and press Save Only. Once you complete the repair operation, the HTML log is sent to the FTP server you indicated. If you want to send a previously created report, press Send Now and indicate the location of the HTML file to send. Let's now see the Repair Shopper Report Options tab. This tab lets you automatically send a report to Repair Shopper after a repair operation completes. This feature is cloud synced. Check Send an HTML report to Repair Shopper automatically after each repair operation to enable this schedule feature. Check also Send a System Info report if you want to enable this feature too. Finally, fill in the Repair Shopper fields and press Save Only to enable this schedule feature. To send a previous report to Repair Shopper immediately, press Send Now and indicate the location of the HTML file to send. When you're done using this dialog box, simply close it. Let's now switch to a different list and check out the Filter Results context menu. Select the desired option. If you select Filter from Last Scan, the results present on both the current scan and the previous scan are removed from the lists, leaving only the new items. If you select Scan Log to filter from, a dialog box similar to this one is displayed. Select the desired log and press Filter Selected. Well, in this case, it will probably remove all the entries because the log was very recent. It did. And finally, you can use the Delete Previous Scan Logs. This displays this dialog box. Tick in the list the logs you want to delete. You can use the Check All None checkbox to help you with the selection. When ready, press Delete Checked. This will remove the previous scan logs and they can no longer be accessed. Note that this action is irreversible. Let's now fix a few items so that we can restore them back later. Let's click Fix Checked this list to fix these 3 items. Let's go to another list. Let's hit Ctrl N to unselect all the items in the list, and I'll select a few here and fix them. Okay, let's now go back to Windstorm's main interface. Instead of performing a new scan, you can load the previous one. If you think your system hasn't changed much since the previous scan, this option can save loads of time and resources. A loaded scan shows the same contents it showed when it was executed for the first time. To do so, click Load the previous scan. A dialog box similar to this one is displayed. Select in the list the log file corresponding to the scan you wish to load. The first column contains the date and time at which the scan was performed. The second column, area scans, displays the areas that were selected for scanning, separated by a comma. The information provided in each line should help you identify the scan log file you want to load. Select the desired log file and press Load Selected. The Scan and Repair window is displayed, showing the loading progress and results. This is much faster than performing a scan again. And as you can see, the results are exactly the same as we had during the scan. Let's now have a look at View Application Logs. This feature lets you view and manage the application's logs. These logs contain actions you perform using WinStorm. One log file is created every day. By default, the contents of the last log are displayed. The log files are created in the INI file format, but their contents are slightly changed before being printed into this dialog box, making them more user-friendly. At the bottom of the dialog box, below the text box, you have 4 buttons. Clear log. This button lets you clear the contents of the text box, leaving only the basic system info section. Open. This lets you open a different application log. Save As lets you export the current log into the file you desire. And finally, Close lets you close this dialog box. Let's now have a look at the white blacklist button. When you perform a system scan, you may want some items to be automatically selected and never filtered out, while others you may not want them to be displayed at all. WinStorm allows you to easily white blacklist items from the System Scan module. We've already covered that. The Whitelist Blacklist Manager lets you view and manage those items. Whitelisted items are always discarded, while blacklisted items are always displayed and automatically selected. By default, the Whitelist tab is selected. Switch to the Blacklist tab, which contains basically the same options, except the Whitelist tab also has an option named Whitelist a folder. This option lets you add a folder with all its contents to the whitelist. You just need to select the desired folder and it will be automatically added to the list. Tick any items you want to remove from the current list. You can use the Check All None checkbox to help you with the selection. When ready, click Remove Checked to remove those checks from the current list. You can also click Save List to File to export the current list into a different file in the location you indicate. And finally, click Import from File to import a whitelist or a blacklist from the file you select. And to finish the tutorial about the Diagnose and Repair page, let's have a look at the Quarantine Manager. The Quarantine Manager lets you restore or permanently remove file objects and registry entries you have previously deleted from the System Scan module. Tick in the list the items you want to restore or permanently delete. You can click Check All None to help you with the selection. Click Restore Checked to restore the ticked items. And confirm. Or click Delete Checked to permanently delete the selected items. Finally, when you're done with this feature, click the Close button to close this dialog box. Let's now switch to the Utilities page. The Utilities page lets you run and manage all the utilities that are shipped with WinStorm and even create your own utilities. Besides running utilities, this page also lets you pin utilities to the dashboard move utilities to the favorite group at the top, and add or remove custom utilities. To run an utility, simple double-click on it. Some utilities are part of Windstorm, and when you run one of those, the Windstorm's UI is replaced with the utilities UI. In this case, click the Home button to return to the dashboard. Other utilities are themselves separate apps, thus Windstorm's UI remains visible while the utility is running. Examples of such utilities are WoW Manager, Tech Tool Store, Log Analyzer, Quick Edit to Eco, Disk Copy, Clear Disk Info, SimpliSync Backup. For other utility-related options, right-click on utility to bring the context menu. Depending on which group the selected utility belongs to and its current status, some menu items may be disabled. For example, if the utility is not pinned to the dashboard, the Unpinned to Dashboard menu item is disabled. If it is pinned to the dashboard, the Pin to Dashboard menu item is disabled. Select the desired context menu and then select the desired menu item from the list. Click Run Selected to execute the selected utility. Click Move to Favorites to move the selected utility to the Favorites group. Click Remove from Favorites to remove the selected utility from the Favorites group. Click Pin to Dashboard to pin the selected utility to the dashboard. Click Unpin from Dashboard to unpin the selected utility from the dashboard. Click Delete this utility to delete a custom utility. This is not valid for the built-in utilities. And click Edit this utility to edit the selected utility. Obviously, this is also valid for custom utilities too. Finally, click Sort Alphabetically to sort the list alphabetically. If you uncheck Sort Alphabetically, the list's sorting is reset. Windstorm allows you to add your own utilities to the list. To do so, click the icon with the plus sign on a black circle, or double-click it. Each utility is a set of actions that you tell Windstorm to perform, and they can do the following. Download a file from the internet using several methods. Run up to 4 commands. These commands are normally used to install, run the downloaded application, register it, update it, start a scan, etc. But they can do many other things. For instance, your utility could download a reg file and use regedit or the reg import command to merge it. The last 3 commands can be set to execute a file depending on the current Windows architecture. This can be useful if the application has 2 different files, one for 32 bits and another one for 64 bits. Each command can also be a single line scripting command, but multiple lines are not allowed. The utilities you create belong to you. They can be set to do whatever you want, but you are fully responsible for all the actions they perform. Now we'll explain how to create an utility that downloads, installs, and runs MCSoft Emergency Kit. So let's start by setting up the utility's name. Then we switch to the Download tab. In this tab you can program your app to perform 2 optional downloads, for which you can choose the download method and optionally the link's text as shown in this dialog box. For both downloads you have 6 different download methods. Let's start by setting up the path of the file that will be saved in the hard drive that will be downloaded to your hard disk. So third party or install source dir can be selected by default. Let's keep it third party. mcsoft emergency kit. Okay, .exe. Now let's launch the browser and perform a quick search. This will quickly brings us to the mcsoft page. Click on download now to see what happens. So the file was automatically downloaded. So this link as a direct download could work straight out of the box, but we also have a link here, click here, which points to the direct download. So let's copy the address from this link, paste it here. So we can see that this link is probably not going to change in the future because it doesn't contain any version or strings that are susceptible to change. So we could try this. Otherwise, for the second method, we could use parse-link text. And with the parse-link text method, you put in the URL of the page that contains the link in the URL field, and then in the link text field you enter the text that is displayed in the link. You can get more information about this field from the F12 console, and as you can see in here, this is the link, an anchor tag, and you can see you could use a more detailed string to identify this link. For example, we can use ID, or we could simply use click here. It would probably work, but in this case we will copy this part, paste it here. Let's test this. So it found one instance, so this would work. Okay, now let's go to the commands. We can already copy this string and paste it here as the first command. I know that the S switch for silent is supported by this command, so let's try this. Okay, we can now save our utility. We can see it's been saved in here, and we can double click it to run the utility. It's now downloading the file. Almost there. And there you go, the mcsoft emergency kit was successfully launched. So we created the utility in less than 2 minutes, which is working pretty nice. See our help files, which contain more examples of utilities you can create. Let's now switch to the setup monitoring page. This page lets you configure the way your computer is monitored, either remotely or locally, set up how frequently a system scan is performed, and which alert you want to receive. The system scan that is performed is the same you get on the Diagnose and Repair page. You can set alerts for file changes, registry changes, service changes, hardware temperature, and much more. We plan to keep adding alert types in the future. In order to use remote or local monitoring, you need to activate a license. You can use a 14-day fully functional trial license. Just click the link and follow the instructions on the website. Or you can buy a license from this page. Once you install your license, you can fully use local and remote monitoring. This page contains two tabs, remote monitoring and local monitoring. Let's set up the remote monitoring tab first. If you enable remote monitoring on a computer, you can control it from the remote monitoring Windstorm page, this one here. But this one is to enable a computer itself to be monitored remotely. Enter the desired client name and custom ID in the custom identification strings group. This data is intended to help you identify this computer among others in a list. Check the areas you want to be scanned under what to scan. Also check the files you want to load by the scanner under Scan Files to Load. In the Monitoring Schedule group, click the Schedule Start Date picker to select the desired date and time for the first scan. Then indicate how frequently you want the scan to be repeated. Select Monthly to scan every day of the month you previously selected in the date picker, or select Custom and indicate the desired frequency. The default is 7 days. Next, in the Scan Options group, tick the desired options to enable them. This checkbox here lets you check all the items in the list to the left or none, respectively. If you want all the items selected by default to be automatically fixed, you can tick this option here, but we recommend you that you perform a scan first in this computer and ensure that all the items checked are to be deleted. You can whitelist some of them so they don't show up again. And finally, tick Scan All Users if you want all users to be scanned in this computer. Then select the display mode for auto run and uninstall entries and for services. By default, the only blacklisted and non-Windows items is checked. You can get more instructions on how to use these controls from the Diagnose and Repair page tutorial we've done before in this video. When ready, you can click on the toggle button at the top to enable or disable this feature. When you enable this feature, you will be asked to log into your account. We'll see in a minute how you can set up alerts and view alerts. You can also click on Save Selected Settings if you don't want to toggle the current status. Once you connect to your account, you don't need to enter the password again. So let's now see how local monitoring works. If you enable local monitoring, you can periodically get alerts and automatically perform system scans. Select the desired setting under the Report Type group. If you select Full Report All Items Found, Windstorm will not automatically filter any results from previous scans. Otherwise, it will, and only new items are displayed. This can help keep things simple, and you can always perform a full scan on demand. Check the areas to scan. Set up the schedule and scan options, as we've just explained for remote monitoring. When ready, click the toggle button at the top to enable disable local monitoring, or simply press Save Selected Settings if you don't want to change the current state. When Windstorm monitoring is enabled, a new icon is present in your system tray. This icon lets you perform several tasks such as launching Windstorm, manage the monitoring schedule options, pause resume local monitoring, start a system scan now, and stop the Windstorm monitoring task completely. Let's now see how you can set up alerts. Windstorm alerting system already supports many types of alerts, and we're constantly adding more. Please do tell us about alert types that should be added. This is a dialog box that lets you set up remote or local alerts. This list contains 3 groups: alerts for system changes, alerts for high hardware temperature, and alerts for high resource usage. The alerts for system changes group lets you set up alerts for file creation or removal, registry entry creation or removal, and system changes. The alerts for high hardware temperature group lets you create alerts for high disk temperature, and we're adding support for GPU, CPU, and chipset temperatures. And finally, in this group, you can set up alerts for high number of processes, high CPU usage, high RAM usage, low disk space in percentage or in gigabytes. Select the desired item in the list. Use the controls in the bottom to set up the desired alert. In this case, you would need to copy the file path. You could use the file information field for that. So in this case, we would create an alert in case this file exists. If you wanted to create an alert in case this file is deleted, you would select does not exist. You can apply the selected alert to the list or discard any changes. In this case, we'll apply it to the list. You can see the alert is here, and you will be alerted when this file is deleted. Let's see how we can create a disk temperature alert. In this case, you can select all disks or the system disk only, and set up the temperature for which the alert will be enabled. Temperatures higher than this one will trigger an alert. And finally, we can add an alert for process count. More than, for example, 300 processes. You can set how often the application should check for alerts in this up-down control, and then you can click on Save Alerts List to apply the alerts. Let's now see View Alerts. Every time Windstorm displays alerts automatically, only the latest ones are shown. However, alerts are accumulated, saved to a text file so you can review them later. This feature lets you view and manage accumulated alerts and warnings. Select the period for which you want to see alerts and warnings for in the middle drop-down box. To delete all the alerts, select the desired period to delete in the top right drop-down box. Once you're done, close this dialog box. This is what a local alert looks like. And once you enable monitoring, either remote or local, the Windstorm's tray icon will be present, and you have 5 options. This one lets you launch Windstorm. This one lets you manage the schedule, just like we did before. This one lets you start a system scan now. This one lets you pause local monitoring so that you don't get any alerts or scans for a while. And this one lets you exit Windstorm monitoring, which means monitoring will be ended. Let's now see the remote monitoring page. The remote monitoring page is where you manage and control your remote PCs, send the remote commands, execute remote scripts, access remote scans, and much more. The account login tab lets you log into your RMM account. This is the first step you need to take in order to start controlling your remote computers. Enter your email address and password in the corresponding fields. Tick the Show checkbox if you want your password's characters to be displayed. You can reset your password anytime by clicking Forgot Your Password here. Tick Save Password in this computer or Save Credentials in this computer if you want to skip typing your password the next time you log in on this computer. When ready, click Login to your RMM account, and if your login is successful, the monitored computer's remote PC management and monitoring scan tabs are created, and the list under the monitored computers tab is populated. Also, the reload PCs and the disconnect button become active. You can use these buttons to reload the PC lists over here, or to disconnect from your account. The Monitored Computers tab lets you manage and control the computers associated with your account, set each account's details, and remove them from your account. Select a computer in the list. This is your first step. The buttons at the bottom become active. Click the button that corresponds to the action you want to take. Set Custom ID lets you change the custom ID associated with the selected computer. The custom ID is a free text string intended to help you identify a computer. Enter your desired ID string and click OK, or click Cancel to discard any changes. The Set Client button lets you set the client associated with the selected PC. The client name is usually the computer's owner's name, but it can be whatever you want. Press OK or Cancel. Click Delete Selected to remove the selected computer from the list. Keep in mind that if you do this, the remote computer is disconnected and will no longer be accessible. And finally, Connect to PC lets you connect to the selected computer and manage it from the Remote Management and Monitoring Scans tabs. We'll get there in a minute. You can also connect to a PC by simply double-clicking it on the list. As Windstorm connects to the computer, the dashboard information and the monitoring scans are loaded from the remote computer. For testing purposes, Windstorm lets you connect to the local PC, the one you're working on, as if it were a remote PC. This is ideal for this video as it lets us view what is happening in both the local and the remote PC. Let's do that. So once you connect to the local PC, you can see that is the same dashboard information. The top pane shows dashboard information about the remote machine, and the bottom list contains actions to execute on the remote PC, including scripts and commands. Remote commands are commands you can send to a remote computer when working on your RMM system. There are quite a few commands available, and we plan to add more as we update Windstorm. To run a command, simply double-click it on the list, or select the desired command and press Execute Selected Command. This command, Execute a System Scan Now, lets you start the system scan in the remote computer. You can choose what areas to scan, as we've already covered in the Diagnose and Repair page, or in the Setup Monitoring page too. You can indicate whether you want to wait for the scan to complete before returning from the command by ticking the corresponding checkbox here. When you're ready, press Start Remote Scan Now to start the scan. A progress box will spin while the scan is performed, and the list of remote scan logs will be updated once the scan is completed, if wait for the scan to end and update the logs list was ticked. For this video, I'll just hit cancel. Run a UVK script lets you send the UVK script to the selected PC and execute it remotely. Indicate the path of the script you want to execute on the remote PC. If you decide to run a different script, you can click the Browse button and indicate the path of the new script to execute. The full command is displayed in the middle text field. The script path is replaced with this tag. Before running the command on the remote computer, this same tag is replaced with the path of the script in the remote machine, which is a temporary file. This ensures the script's path is valid on the remote computer. Select the desired UI mode when running the UVK script on the remote computer. Select Visible if you want to display the normal UI in the remote PC. This will load the script, but its execution does not start automatically. Select Hidden to enable Quiet mode. No UI is displayed, and usually no user interaction is needed. Select Passive to show only progress. No user interaction is needed usually. If you tick wait for the command to complete. The progress dialog box will spin until the command is fully executed remotely. When ready, press Run the script now to start sending the script to the remote computer and then execute it. Let's see what this script contains. So as you can see, it will run Notepad, then regedit, and then it will show a message box from another script. And it will perform a few more actions that we won't be able to see. Let's execute the script. Okay, Notepad and regedit and the message box. And there you go, the script is completed. The 6 commands after this one, basically they do the same thing, except the script is different. So their functionality is quite similar and we won't get into many details. So run a system repair script lets you send a UVKSR file to the selected PC and execute it remotely. UVKSR files can be created from the system repair utility. Apply a Twix file lets you send the UVK Twix file from the selected PC and apply it remotely. You can create these Twix files from the Tools and Twix utility. Run a CMD batch script lets you send the batch file to the selected PC and execute it remotely. Run a PowerShell script lets you send the PS1 file to the selected PC and execute it remotely. PS1 files contain PowerShell applets to execute, and they can be created from PowerShell itself or from any text editor. Import a registry, reg file, lets you send the reg file to the selected PC and merge it remotely. You can create reg files straight from regedit or from the reg export command. Run a custom command lets you run any command on the remote PC and optionally also send the file that you can replace with the script path tag. For example, let's send this batch file. Let's change the UI mode to visible. But before running the script, let's see the contents. So you can see it will only display, this is a startup script. Let's run the script on the remote PC. And there you go, it displayed, this is a startup script. List view remote application logs. Displays a list of the remote application logs and lets you view the selected one, delete them one by one, or clear them all. Application logs are INI type files that contain the different actions executed by the application daily. View today's remote application log will simply display today's remote application log. View remote alerts and warnings lets you view and manage the alerts and warnings in the remote computer. This works similarly to viewing the alerts locally, which you've already covered in this video. Set up remote alerts and warnings lets you configure the alerts and warnings in the remote computer. This works similar to setting up the alerts locally, which we've already covered. Select one of those actions and click execute selected command. Usually it only takes a few seconds to send the command over. Press take remote control to use a desktop app and take remote control of the remote computer. In the current setup, Rust Desk is executed in the remote computer and the screenshot of the current ID and password is transmitted and displayed in the local desktop. Rust Desk is then executed locally side by side with the remote screenshot. You can type in the credentials in the local Rust Desk application and click connect. Well, in this case it displays wrong password because it saved the password from last time. So we'll just click retry and we enter the current password and click OK. Then we have remote control. Click Reload Remote PC Details to reload the dashboard from the remote PC. The Monitoring Scans tab lets you load system scans from the selected remote computer and fix items remotely. To get started, select a scan log from the list. The buttons at the bottom become active. At this point, you can either load the selected log in full, which will display all the entries found during the scan, or load it differential, filtering the results present in the previous log. If you click Load Differential, an overlaid dialog box will let you choose the filtering log. Otherwise, if you select Load in Full, the selected log is fully loaded. The selected log is downloaded from the remote computer and displayed in the System Scan module. You can fix items just like when you load a local system log from the dialog and repair page, which we've already covered in this video. Just keep in mind you're fixing those items in the remote PC. To delete a scan log in the remote computer, select it in the list and click Delete Selected. To reload the list of system scan logs in the remote PC, click Reload Scan Logs. And lastly, let's switch to the About and Activation page. The About and Activation Windstorm page displays some information about the current application's version and lets you activate a Pro or Trial license. Both these licenses unlock all Windstorm features, including branding the application to your likes, using your own icon, logo, title, description, and website URL. This page contains two tabs, About and Branding. Switch to the desired tab at the top of the frame. In the top left area of the About tab, you can see the application's version that you're using. And to the right, you have a button named Check for Updates. Click this button to update the app to the latest version available. In the center part, you see registration info, and at the bottom, you have two buttons and two links. By License takes you to the license purchase page. Click this button if you want to purchase a Windstorm license. There are 1 or 2 years licenses available and several different options for the number of remote PCs you can manage. Install license lets you locate the downloaded license and activate it. If you've already downloaded a license, click this button and indicate the location of the downloaded license that you wish to activate. The Get a 14-day fully functional trial license link takes you to the trial license request page, which in turn lets you get a 14-day Windstorm license that works as a Pro license. And finally, the privacy policy link takes you to our privacy policy page. Once you activate the license, you can brand Windstorm with your own icon, name, description, and logo. To do so, switch to the Branding tab. The Branding tab lets you easily change the application's icon, logo, name, and description. If you wish to change the application's icon, click the upper Change button and indicate the desired icon to use. This can be any file object. Windstorm will use the icon associated with the file you choose. To change the application's logo, which is displayed only in some of the utilities, press the lower Change button and indicate the location of the image file to use. Type in the desired application name, description, and website URL in the corresponding text fields. When ready, click Save and Apply. If you want to revert to the default settings, press Reset Defaults. As you can see, the application has been fully branded. Thanks for watching this video. I hope this has been helpful with the application. Don't forget to comment and like. And if you have any suggestions for other videos, don't forget to include it in your comments. Bye everyone.